Final Fantasy 15 has been making waves since its release, with record sales figures for the franchise and plenty of positive feedback from both critics and fans alike. I'm sure pretty much everyone who's watching this video has therefore played and is at least well on their way to finishing the game, but even if that isn't the case, I still thought it would be neat to compile a list of things that I've absolutely loved about the game now that I've completed it. In reality, despite there being clear areas for improvement, which I'll cover in my upcoming review, there are actually quite a lot of things that Final Fantasy 15 brings to the table. I've therefore decided to really focus and condense it down a bit, so here's 5 things I've absolutely loved about Final Fantasy 15. Side note, there may be a few spoilers thrown in here and there on some parts, so if you're a little sensitive, please bear that in mind. Ardyn Izunia. I had high hopes for Ardyn coming into Final Fantasy 15 due to all the preamble marketing and everything we've known about this character, including Kingsglaive, and I have to say that upon completion of the game, his character was very well crafted. On the antagonist side of the cast, he was definitely a shining light. He might not be remembered as one of the strongest villains in the franchise, but what I loved about his character was the mysterious demeanour and allure. Throughout all of his interactions, you never quite knew what was going on. Is he sincere or is it a trick? Often, it's a bit of both. It's only once you find out his true motivations that things make a little bit more sense, and in classic Final Fantasy fashion, you can kind of sympathise with his plight. Even though Ardyn is involved in the majority of the game's key plot moments, I still felt like they could have done a bit more to develop his character, especially when you look back at older scenes. I mean, that statement alone featured in the E3 2013 trailer is so subtle but so clear, and it's a shame that scenes like this end up being cut from the final product. Oh, and hanging bodies. I mean, damn, that's probably the most messed up, sinister thing we've seen from a while from an antagonist. You'll know what I mean if you've got that far. Noctis' armory. Okay, so this point might seem a little bit strange until you finish the game, but I have to say that I've been pretty damn impressed by the sheer volume and diversity of the weapons available in Final Fantasy 15. On face value, things actually look quite limited, with only a few different categories available. Stores throughout EOS often don't have much variety either. However, when you look a little deeper, things start to change. I mean, Noctis' Royal Arms come in all shapes and sizes, from the standard swords, through to that shuriken and shield from the Platinum demo, and even a trident, scepter and a bow. Once you complete the game, you'll also be able to get a whole host of new weapons, including the legendary weapons via quests with Randolph, freaking sniper rifle, and others that are unlocked in some of the new dungeons that you can play through. If you finished the game and haven't looked into any of this yet, I'd recommend doing so. You won't be disappointed. Just be prepared for a lot of work, as unlocking these weapons won't be a piece of cake. Soundtrack arrangements. We've spoken about the Final Fantasy 15 soundtrack before, and why wouldn't we? There are some pretty special tracks on it, and Yoko Shimomura deserves a lot of credit. I mean, I could easily gush about it some more in a general sense, but for this video I wanted to highlight something quite specific: how they've arranged tracks throughout. One very prominent but small example comes from Somnus. Now, this is a track we've known about for years, and I was very glad that the vocal arrangement actually was still featured in the game, but I also loved a very short rendition that you hear when picking up the Royal Arms. It only lasts for approximately 25 seconds, but damn, whenever I saw that weapon absorption sequence and heard that theme booming in the background, I just got a massive swell of accomplishment and pride. The arranged version of the Prelude that you hear in the menus is just gorgeous, and even though I was completely worn out by Valse di Fantastica due to its sheer overuse throughout all the marketing materials, hearing Valse di Fantastica on the world map made my heart melt. And that piece is just so good. Ignis Scientia. I swear I'm not just saying this because Ignis also has an English accent. This guy, look, I know that many of the characters in Final Fantasy 15 go through some hardships, but I personally felt that Ignis' story arc was handled extremely well throughout. As the game starts to pick up a head of steam, he has a lot to deal with due to some significant changes in his situation, but he does so with grace and dignity while others around him lose their heads. Even just talking about it now, I keep thinking back to that scene after the Marlborough fight. If you've got that far, you'll know what I'm talking about. He acts as a reliable chauffeur and cooks some pretty awesome meals along the way too. I think each of the main cast members came away with a lot of positives, but for me, Ignis deserves a special mention. Fighting Ifrit. No, I'm not talking about that silly Chapter 0 prologue thing. I'm talking about the real shebang here. The boss fight that every hardened Final Fantasy fan has craved. I think out of all the differing battles that took place in Final Fantasy 15 in the main story campaign, this one comes out on top. Starting out with his rather pompous seating arrangement, the battle with Ifrit goes on to feature a blend of different gameplay options combined with some awesome set pieces, and Hellfire, a booming piece of music that incorporates a ton of different themes and has various phases to it. My only regret is that there weren't more battles of the same quality featured throughout the rest of the game. I mean, the Titan Archeon fight is way better than Square Enix made it seem during the E3 press conference earlier this year, but even still, I don't think that anything else compares to the fight against Ifrit. It was just epic, and it was a perfect lead-in to what would follow. So there's 5 things that I loved about Final Fantasy 15. What have you guys enjoyed most about the game so far? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Oh, and make sure you hit that notification button. And be sure to check back for my Final Fantasy 15 review that's coming out soon. This is Daryl, signing out. Catch you later.